This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 148 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I am talking to Nesha Pai, and we are diving into overcoming obstacles as well as how to network again. I can't seem to stop talking about networking, you guys. I think it's because it's really prevalent right now in my own life, in my own business, and I just really understand how isolating it can be. As a blogger, as an influencer, as an entrepreneur, the business that you are trying to run, many people in your everyday life do not understand what you're trying to do. And it is just so important to have people in your life that do understand it. So it did end up coming up in this episode, partly because Nesha is someone from the Charlotte area that I met through a networking event. She actually has a group in the Charlotte area for entrepreneurs and hosts events. And I talk about it in this episode, but I stalked around in her Facebook group for about a year and then finally attended an event, which was just a great opportunity to meet people. It was so inspiring, the person that spoke at her event. We also then, in talking, I realized that they are part of the No Tribe, which is another group that I am part of here in Charlotte, just recently started to become a member of. So because of that, we had a couple different connections, and it's definitely on my mind, and I'm seeing the difference in the way that I feel about my business, the way that I don't have as many. We talk about those ups and downs of a roller coaster of being an entrepreneur, and I feel that those lows sometimes can be really low if you don't have someone to talk to about it that understands your business. So having that for me has definitely helped in my business. Now, before we dive into this episode, I want to make sure that if you haven't gotten your ticket for Influencer Entrepreneurs Academy here in Charlotte, that you are absolutely going to want to grab that. It is the premier conference for female entrepreneurs that are looking to grow their online presence. You are looking to scale your business to the next level. If this is you, you're going to want to attend. It is my setup for the conference is based upon me being an introvert. So everything that I do is to make sure that my introverts feel comfortable. We're putting you in a setting where you're going to be put into a group, a mastermind group, that you are going to have like-minded women working with you through the strategies that are talked about and taught by the speakers. The speakers are then going to give you an activity to do to implement those strategies, and you're going to put them into practice within your group. So if you are looking for that chance to network and meet people in person, I'm telling you, this is the place to be. You are going to want to grab your ticket. We're going to link to it in the show notes. Again, it is in Charlotte, March 31st through April 2nd, 2020. All right, you guys, let's dive into this episode. Welcome, Nesha, to the podcast. How are you?
I am awesome. I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to get to talk to you. So unlike many of my previous guests or guests that come on, Nesha actually lives in Charlotte. So we have met in person and have done events together. So I am so excited to actually get to introduce you to my audience and for them to know a bit more about you and your business.
I am thrilled and honored. Thank you.
Of course. All right. So will you introduce yourself and your business to my audience? Just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm Nesha Pai. I am the managing member of and founder of Pai CPA here in Charlotte. And we are not a typical CPA firm. I consider our firm an outsourced accounting department for small businesses. So I act as the controller, CFO, and my staff would be, a staff to your company.
Very good. And you also you do networking events here in Charlotte. That's how you and I got connected, is someone had recommended your networking group that was a Facebook group to me. And I finally bit the bullet and was at an event.
You did.
Stalking your group for about a year. When did you start that group?
Yeah. So first of all, I love that you were stalking my group for a year and that you came to an event, and several people have done that. And that makes me light up to know that at any point in time, someone can jump in because there's an event that sparks their interest. And I started that. I have a passion for entrepreneurs and small businesses. That's not only who I serve, but I feel like I've been an entrepreneur or had the entrepreneur brain since I was like 5. And so I started this group 3 years ago because I don't fit the mold. As an extroverted as I am, I don't fit the mold of a lot of leads groups. And their leads groups, I feel, kind of take over Charlotte. And what I mean by leads groups, they're like the BNIs and I don't know, blocks. And there's different places where you have to pass your business card out, and I feel like they're built on scarcity, and my personality is built on abundance. So, I was a little disheartened because I got rejected out of a couple of different groups because they already had, CPAs. Okay. And I would try to explain, but look, I don't do what everyone else does. I do something different. So after a while of getting discouraged and sort of rejected out of these groups, I said, you know what, I'm going to create one. And, it has a very nondescript name. I made it Pi Networking Group. And I said one day 3 years ago, it was July, and I woke up with this Jerry Maguire mission statement of like how it was going to go and what my mission was. And I grassroots put an event out on Facebook with a speaker, made it free, and I had 40 people show up. And I thought, man, I'm onto something, right? Like Charlotte is hungry for real connection.
Yes.
And I've been running it ever since. I've had almost 40 events. I create the events. It's a passion project. So I literally will wake up one day like I did this morning and create, think about who do I want to speak at my next event and when do I want that to be? And that's kind of how I do it.
I love it. And it was great. It was such a great opportunity to meet other entrepreneurs in the area. And the speaker was fabulous that you have. I was just so inspired. It was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I try to, I feel like if you're part of a group, any group, the people who don't align with those values will eventually weed themselves out. And so I feel like people who align to my values are the people that are staying in or sticking in. And I feel like I've collected this amazing group of people. I'm so whatever that I'm like, you want to just kind of hang out on the sidelines for a year? That's great. You want to come to one event? That's awesome. I don't have rules. I just am like, if something inspires you, just come. Yes,
absolutely. And I love that about you. So you have something really exciting that you have been working on for a while that's coming out relatively soon. You have your first book. We'll get into more detail about that, but tell me the title of the book.
It's called Overcoming Ordinary Obstacles, and the subtitle is, hold on, I actually have to look it up. I haven't memorized it yet. Boldly Claiming the Facets of an Extraordinary Life. And I kind of had to play on it, ordinary and extraordinary, because when I started writing this book, I realized I haven't gone through anything that, that no one else has gone through. I haven't gone through major tragedy or illness, and I'm lucky for that. But I realized that what I've gone through, a lot of people have, but a lot of people don't talk about it. We're taught in our culture to not, I know there's more buzzwords of authenticity and vulnerability, but we're taught to, have this highlight reel.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I said, that's never been me. That's never been me. So I'm sharing the journey.
I love that. So tell me what you mean by, could you define overcoming for me?
Yeah. So overcoming to me, I know it means a lot of different things to a lot of people, but overcoming to me is facing any challenge that comes into your life, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, and first of all, facing it, accepting it head on, and finding ways to get around it to what your goals ultimately are, or finding ways to not let it, you're going to get shifted in your journey, but finding ways to get around it to your destination. I look at it like a road, right? You're in a road, you might hit a pothole. How do you get around that pothole? You might hit, a tree might have fallen onto the road. How are you going to get around that? And it's just having the grit and the determination that you're not going to let a challenge stop you.
Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just thinking of starting a podcast, you need to listen to Buzzcast from the folks at Buzzsprout. Here we go! Buzzcast covers everything a podcaster should know, from marketing strategies and how to make money from your podcast to the latest and greatest tech and industry insights to keep you on the cutting edge. Follow Buzzcast by clicking the link in the description or go to buzzcast.buzzsprout.com and keep podcasting.
I love that. Because part of what I believe is that those potholes that you're talking about are what make us who we are. Everything, when we fall forward, we're failing, but we're learning from it and it's making us who we are. So those potholes are actually building into us. And the fact that you talk about how to actually overcome those potholes are so important. So tell me a little bit about your journey with overcoming.
Yeah. A lot of people, when I first wrote this book, I had publishers and editors, when they went to go look at my website, they were like, man, I hope this book is not about accounting. So I said, oh, no, it's quite the opposite. And so I start with my parents' emigration here to the U.S. I'm a first generation Indian woman, born and raised in the South, which right there is already a many, many challenges, right? In that one sentence. And so I kind of start with talking about my parents' emigration here so my readers can understand how I grew up. And another chapter talks about my own search for identity. My own search for identity was a major obstacle, and it was a major obstacle most of my life. And so I talk about that. I talk about racism. I talk about, divorce, postpartum depression, in a culture especially that, doesn't believe in divorce. And depression. Depression, we talk about that now and how that affected my life. And getting fired twice in my career. I worked for the number one accounting firm in the world out of college, passed the exam the first time as a senior. And I thought, man, I got my whole life laid out, right? This is what we do at 21 years old. And I didn't. So, and I talk about how to start a business. It wasn't pretty the way I started it. I Jerry Maguired out of my firm. I made that a verb because that's exactly what happened to me. I took my one big client and I talk about that. And I talk about love and the barriers we have to love, and finding self-love. And the final chapter is the kicker. It was my personal journey to finding God. And I had converted from Hinduism to Christianity a little over a year ago. And so overcoming the dogma of religion, right? Because I was born into Hinduism. And when you're born into a religion, that's it, right? So that was a major overcome.
And so the thing about your book to me is that it sounds like we'll be able to see almost ourselves in the things, in the ways, the circumstances, the experiences that you have. A lot of us probably could say, postpartum depression, all of those different pieces of our lives will be, and they're not talked about that often.
Right.
So absolutely being able to see ourselves in the book, I think is a great aspect to be able to have. When it comes to overcoming, do you think there's specific steps that you have to take in order to be able to do it?
I do because, unfortunately, I run into people who don't take certain steps. And the major step I think you have to take is, one, accepting it. What is that challenge or thing? It could be internal. It could be external. you have to accept that it's there, right? Awareness, the self-awareness. And then you have to say to yourself, okay, I have this thing. How am I going to work around it? How am I going to get through it? And I find a lot of people take that thing, the obstacle, and they kind of shove it under the rug, or they kind of try to find a shortcut. And I feel my way through every obstacle, right? I think you have to feel your way through and get through it. You just don't there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut.
Right. Do you think that also, a way that in which you got around it, will I also be able to get around it the same way?
You may not get around it the same way, but I have what are called reflection questions at the end of each chapter. Okay. And to have the reader, go through their own journey, because I feel like we all have separate journeys. We might all have a similar obstacle, but through our lens, I may look at it differently. You may look at it differently. You may get through something easier than me, or vice versa. And so I think what I try to do is relate to the reader and say, hey, have you thought about this? Or did you have this in your life? How did you handle it, differently from me?
Right. I love that you said the word lens too, because I have an actual client that's a nutritionist that always tells her clients, I want you to zoom out based on what you're looking at and try to decide what's going to work for you as a person. And I think that's similar idea of how can you overcome it? What will work best for you, your personality, your history, as far as your background and what you know about yourself. Do you have daily practices that you feel help you become more resilient?
Yes. Especially now in my faith walk, prayer, that's huge for me. Prayer is huge for me. Daily affirmations, right? That's the new buzz phrase too, almost, right? Daily affirmations, and checking in with a best friend or a close person in your life, because it's easy to feel like we're going through life alone. Easy to feel that way, especially as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I feel like that's why there's a lot of depression rates so high, because a lot of people isolate themselves. And I check in with my best friend or my right-hand person on my team, somebody on a daily basis.
Yes. And I think that kind of check-in just keeps the balance almost to make sure you're on the right path.
Yes.
I love that you say affirmations. That is actually something that I have a hard time doing, but I've been doing it with my daughters every morning. Good. I will tell them before they give me a hug as we walk to school, and then they go down into the school before they go in. I always say, you're kind and smart. You're going to do great things. And my oldest one had to do probably the first month of school must have had to do an activity where it asked her for traits about herself. Number 1 and number 2 were kind and smart. And I kind of sat back and was like, she's hearing me.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it really is becomes part of us and part of them when you are saying it to another loved one. So I love that you said affirmations. One of the things for me that I've recently started doing, because I feel like as an entrepreneur, I have one of those brains that's like a ping pong ball. It just
we do.
It's horrible. And I always felt like it was always working. I was always on, never had that chance to really rest. So I started meditating. And I think that it took me a really long time. It was so hard in the beginning because
I can't meditate.
Yes. And that's what I thought too, honestly. And just, I use the Calm app, and it is a godsend because it just kind of walks you through what you need to do as far as the breathing and what to focus on. And her voice is so calming when it comes to it. But yes, definitely those little things that can give you that easier to get through the rest of your day. I think it makes it just so important.
Absolutely.
Yes. So now with the book comes out, when did your book come out? It comes out.
My book will launch January 2020. I didn't want it launching during the holiday season. Today I will get the final layout copy. So I'm looking for reviewers. I'm going to pick 10 reviewers so that I can have people start reviewing the book before it comes out. And, so I'm very excited. I'm going to have a big launch party and I hope you're going to attend. But I did it specifically to kind of start the new year off. Right. So let's start the new year with overcoming.
Yes. So I want to go back really fast. You said about having that friend that you can go to, that you can kind of check in with. And I'm guessing, is it Rebecca for you?
Rebecca's one. I have Shell, who is my branding marketing person. And, I just thank God for them because, at any point in time, and there are several others that I haven't mentioned, but, any point in time I can call, right? And I think it's important that everybody has that person.
Yes.
And I don't have I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a spouse. I don't have a dog. My son's in college. So I'm like, you got to have a person.
Yes.
You need to have a person.
And those people understand your business too. They're also like some form of entrepreneurs. I think
Correct.
Important too. Is that
very important.
Can't always be that friend from high school or that friend from college that has no idea what you're talking about because they can't support you in the way in which you need to be.
And my friends group has shifted tremendously in the 8 years I've been an entrepreneur because, and even, when I look to meet somebody, even a partner in my life, I'm hoping to meet an entrepreneur because I feel like we live in such a different world. We operate in a different world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely have different mindsets for sure. So I guess one of the questions that I have though, then is how do people go about finding those type of people if they don't have them? We talked about how you have a Facebook group and I was able to find you. I asked in another group. There's all, I feel like Charlotte has a ton of them. That was one of the great things about
We now have a lot of wonderful groups.
Yes, it's amazing. And I think that it made it easier to find you. I think I asked in the Girl Tribe community.
Yes.
Networking, who's got a networking group, and your name came up multiple times, and that's how I found it. We also both are part of No Tribe.
Yes.
Which was something that I only got involved in the last 2-3 weeks. It has been a whirlwind for me, especially with the launch event and everything that was going on. And that is something that's not nationally yet, but it's in different states and areas already.
Yeah, I went to segue on that, I went to the summit last year in Scottsdale, and Sarah Benkin's done such an amazing job. I have met and connected with incredible women from around the country and where No is. I feel like it's important as women that we have a tribe of women, but I created my group specifically to be co-ed. Yes. And A, to honor my son, but B, men don't have many places of support, right? There's the good old boy network and they can go play golf together and smoke cigars. But I wanted to have a place for male entrepreneurs that was relationship building. That wasn't just like, hey, let me pass my business card out. So I specifically created a co-ed group for that reason.
Yes. And you do such a good job of including them.
Thank you.
I've noticed that every time at the event when I was there, you did a great job of having everybody introduce themselves and explain their businesses and what exactly they do. And I know when I've had a question, inside your group, I was looking for a financial planner that was local. I wanted someone that understood S Corps. And I asked that, and you just tagged a bunch of men that happened to be in the group that did that. And I met with them, and that's who I ended up working with.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, I want a place of support for men because they're taught to not be vulnerable or share, right? And so the space I've created is for them to be vulnerable and to share, not just be manly businessy, right? So that's awesome.
Yes. So No Tribe, we can talk about, started in Phoenix. Is that right?
Started in Phoenix. I want to say 2 years ago, Sarah started it. Okay. She has so many books out now.
Yes, I was looking through all of them afterwards. I know she's got Calgary, Alberta, Edmonton, because I have a large Canadian audience. And then of course, North Carolina, there's Asheville, Raleigh, definitely, obviously Charlotte. Is there Durham too, possibly?
Not yet, but I bet there will be. And I met Sarah 8 years ago at a female networking group and Business Sorority, which Mel Miller runs. Okay. And, and I'm just proud to see what she's built, and to make it go national is exciting. And I feel like in connecting with people, find what works for you, right? There's a million things out there. I've been a part of so many different things on and off throughout the years. And I feel like find where your soul just is inspired.
Yes. And I think it's great to have things virtual, but it's also good to meet people in person and have those connections.
Right.
And I think if you can find it in your local area, that was the hard part for me, is because I was so used to being in that blogger world that I went to these conferences in Utah and wherever else, but it was hard to find people necessarily like in my community. So finding those type of people in person, I think, is just so important.
Well, we want you to come out. So come out.
Especially if you're local to Charlotte. Absolutely. And of course, if you are looking for a conference for female entrepreneurs, my Influencer Entrepreneurs Academy is March 31st through April 2nd. So those of you that are listening and are like, kind of like, I want to find a place to go to, we would love to still have you come. We still have some tickets left, so we would love that. Tell my listeners, Nesha, where are the best places to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I have two websites. I have my one which houses my book and my speaking and my workshops. It's neshapai.com, NESHAPAI, and my website PaiCPA, PAICPA, PLLC.com. That's PaiCPA, PLLC.com. I'm also a big Instagrammer, so you can find me Nesha Pai on Instagram or PaiCPA, and I'm on Facebook. So I'm very active all over social media, email, probably too connected, to be honest with you. Yeah. And, but I love Instagram. I don't know. I'm obsessed with Instagram. So, but those are the different ways you can find me for sure.
Perfect. So we're going to link to those in the show notes. If you're listening to the episode, make sure that you do a screenshot of it and put it up on Instagram stories. You can tag myself as well as Nesha.
Please do.
Right on Instagram, we'll be able to share, we'll share it. And we'd love to connect with you guys to be able to have a conversation with you about what you thought about the episode. Nesha, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I'm so excited about your book coming out, and I will absolutely be at the launch. So please make sure to send me.
Jenny, thank you. I'm honored to even be on your show and to have a voice. So thank you for that, for allowing me to share it on your platform. And I look forward for you and I to connect more through through Pi, through whatever.
Yes, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it. You are definitely going to want to make sure that you keep an eye out for Nesha's book that will be launching in January so that you can get your hands on a copy. Like I said in the interview, many of the things that she talks about overcoming, we're going to be able to see ourselves in that. And I think we need to be able to walk into and around those potholes as she talked about. You guys, if you haven't grabbed your tickets, make sure that you do for IEA. We are coming up to a point where we are going to be sold out, which is so exciting. But I want to see you there, so make sure if you haven't already gotten your tickets that you do. You guys, I appreciate you all so much for listening in. Take a screenshot of you listening to this episode, show me what you're doing, and tag myself, Jenny, at Jenny_Melrose on Instagram, as well as tag Nesha, because she is going to get back to you as well. As you could tell, she's a big fan of Instagram as well. All right, you guys, if you have a chance to leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will talk to you all soon.